Hello, everyone. I'm Dave Fry, and welcome to the Space Between podcast, episode number 10. Today, I have the great privilege of speaking with Clare.
Hi, my name is Clare Assante.
The brilliance of this understanding is to share in our infinite possibilities. You and I are no different from each other regarding how our thinking works and who we are at our core. This podcast purpose is to share in a new paradigm that awakens your awareness of who you are by your very nature. This understanding unleashes profound inner freedom that is sustainable and life-changing. Discover yourself beyond what is ordinary, beyond your thinking. As a certified change coach through the Little School of Big Change, Clare is determined to share this understanding, to help point people in the direction of change without tools or techniques. Clare suffered from anxiety for 25 years, and her world was getting smaller and smaller by the hour. She had tried many things to get rid of the anxiety, totally unaware that it was the external effort to get rid of it that was holding it in place. Once Clare started to see the truth in this understanding of how our thinking works and that we're not our thoughts, there were massive shifts in her life. She witnessed that once old beliefs in her thinking changed, they changed for good. This understanding is what she'll explore with you through curiosity and thought-provoking conversations. The possibilities are endless. Her depth in this understanding is breathtaking, and you owe it to yourself to experience this incredible moment, this one, right now, with awe and wonder. Don't become blindsided by thought any longer. If you think too long about contacting her, you'll miss out on seeing yourself in a completely different way. You are wisdom, clarity, and love, and you experience your thinking. Go to blindsidedbythought.com to connect with Clare. Thank you for watching. The links are in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell icon to be notified of new podcasts. Clare, thank you so much for being here. This is a great privilege on the Space Between podcast. I thank you so much. I have immense gratitude for the possibilities in life, and starting these podcasts was just something that showed up, and now I get to talk to amazing human beings. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. Let's hear a little bit about you. Can you please tell the people listening and watching something about yourself?
So I'm a hairdresser, and I've been a hairdresser since I was about 16. And I came across this understanding about 6 years ago from anxiety-based, really. So I've sort of been struggling for many years, and heard something in this that was totally different to anything else I'd tried, which I think is probably the same for a lot of us, where you just go around trying everything you possibly can. None of it really makes sense, and it helps for a while, and then suddenly you find this and you think, actually, well, it must be the truth because it really works. So now I coach it because it just affected me so much. I just wanted to pass it on to other people. And it's funny because, like, when it didn't happen last time when we tried to record this, I came off the call, and a couple of days later I was like, what was I thinking? I was just sat there sort of talking about anxiety and doing it very basically, and, you know, don't get me wrong, it was really fun and I loved it, and we covered a lot, but I don't know, something hit me that really I should be sharing my experience. And there's something that I've probably been avoiding talking about because I don't want to kind of make people feel uncomfortable. But yeah, so I have a diagnosis of an eye disease, and it's amazing how this understanding has helped so much with that. Yet for some reason, I kind of, in my own mind, don't want to kind of go on about it. You know, again, I'm sort of creating that for myself, but don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable, or so I sort of keep it to myself. But actually, you know, what you were saying about it just happening in real life. So this for me is happening, so this is what I should share. And it's weird how that just suddenly popped into my mind. I was like, there's a reason why it didn't work out last time.
Tell us more about your eyes and what's happening.
Yeah, so it's a rare genetic eye disease that I'm not really sure why I've got it, because I don't know anyone in my family that has. So it was totally out of the blue. And eventually I'll either lose part or all of my sight. So, absolutely no clue when, no clue how it's going to happen. Everybody you talk to that's got it has had a totally different experience. So there's no figuring it out, like when it might occur. So it's just really like, I guess, like any diagnosis where you're sort of living day to day with knowing that something's going to happen at some point, but not having any clue what it is. And it's funny, isn't it? It's really helped me to learn about, or shown me that we just don't have any control over anything, which, isn't it funny how we always thought we did? And, we don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, but we actually think that we can plan for that and know what's going to happen. And I suppose once I sort of let go of any control of my eyes, it just helped me to let go of any control of anything, which was quite a relief, actually. So I really do kind of let everything just unfold as it does, and it just takes so much pressure off, because I don't really have to think about the next step in anything I do. And it's like what you were saying about kind of hiding the anxiety and things. Isn't it funny how when you're in it, you really feel like you should hide it for anyone, but once you've sort of found something that's helped, you want to shout it from the rooftops because you want to help people. And I suppose that's kind of what I want to do with being able to share how it feels to have a diagnosis from this understanding. Because I would not have dealt very well years ago if I'd been told what I was told a couple of years ago. And just that kind of, the fact that it doesn't always feel the same. I mean, that's a big kind of one to make you realise that we don't always feel the same. The diagnosis is no different, but I feel differently about it every single day. So that just sort of proves to me that this understanding is so true, that you're kind of in and out of thoughts and feelings, and they change, and the circumstances don't have to change for you to feel totally different.
But that's really beautiful to share, just that you don't know, and every single day it shows up for you differently. But can you please explain what this understanding is? What is the understanding?
So an understanding of the mind, of how the mind works, that's very different to what we've always been led to believe. So, I mean, it makes sense that when we were growing up, we were taught that things on the outside of us make us feel a certain way, because, you'd do something, you'd feel uncomfortable and think that thing that you did made you feel uncomfortable. And then you hear adults saying, oh, well, it's sunny today, so I'm happy. Or that person shouted at me, so I'm upset. Or, so it's that constant kind of telling you that that's the way it works. So that's just how we live. So this understanding changes everything, because it teaches you that nothing on the outside of you can make you feel anything. It's only ever you're thinking about that thing that makes you feel the way you feel, which is such a relief, because then you don't have to change your job, your partner, your move house. You can actually have different experiences of everything that you're doing. And did I cover it, Dave? Yes, there's so much. There's so much to say, isn't there?
There's so much.
Where would you go?
That's so funny. Well, did I cover it?
I know. I don't know what I just said.
You covered it for me, but I think it's because we're speaking a language that's so familiar to us, because we've invested so much time into this. What is this understanding? And is there a simpler way to explain it?
Yeah, because I guess when you're a child as well, so if you are crying, there's always someone trying to change your feelings, aren't they? From quite early on, if a child's crying, you try and make them feel better. And I suppose that's kind of where it starts, isn't it? Where you're kind of you're almost taught that your emotions are not right and that you need to change them. And that sort of progresses over the years, doesn't it? It becomes stronger, where you can't feel anxious or angry. There's certain emotions that are not okay and certain emotions that are. And, we say things, don't they? Well, I just want them to be happy. Well, we're not meant to be happy all the time, are we? It's just, it's not the way a human is. So I guess this understanding teaches you to become comfortable with all those emotions that we thought weren't okay. And you don't have to change them. They're just there and they'll flow through and they're allowed to do their thing and not kind of jump all over them every time they feel uncomfortable.
I think you bring up an awesome point. Awesome point. And when you say for us to be okay with, let's say, for instance, a depressed feeling, we can have a depressed feeling. We can be depressed, as in experiencing depression, but it doesn't mean that we are depressed. We can have the experience of depression, but it doesn't mean that we are now categorized and put in a box and say, well, because you had this experience of being depressed, you look around the world and you see everything that's going on in the world, you experience depression. That's going to be a normal human experience when you see, if you listen to the news for any amount of time, it's very possible you're going to have depression. It doesn't mean that there's a problem with that. And that's where our culture says, oh my gosh, you've been depressed for 3 weeks. You need medications. Something is wrong with you. And it's like, and we're saying, no. You said, no, not at all. Not at all. I mean, depression, anxiety, those are things that we experience as human beings. And of course we would experience those. We are amazing, compassionate human beings. I mean, that's what we are at our core. And to take away the most intense and amazing experience, to take that away from us that's actually I believe is wrong to do that, to medicate people and to try to keep them from experiencing the depths of compassion.
If that, if everybody knew that it was okay to feel everything, then what a difference. People would they wouldn't take so much notice of their bad moods or their depressed thoughts or all those feelings that feel so uncomfortable and compelling because we think that there's something wrong when they happen, rather than just seeing that as, okay, that's what humans do. We're meant to feel stuff. We think and then we feel stuff. And then if we let it, then it moves through and we move on to the next emotion. But by kind of always pushing it away, that's what's holding it there. And that's what makes it more of a problem. And it builds up. And then every time we have it, we think it's connected to something that we've done or, and then we avoid stuff, it makes total sense, doesn't it? When you start kind of looking into why we've been led to believe that it works one way. But then once you know this other way, everything just feels lighter and you can just navigate through life a lot more gracefully and, things are lighter and more fun. And a weird thing happened yesterday. I went to the dentist. I've had a fear of the dentist for my whole life. I went yesterday and I had no fear at all. I didn't know when that happened. I don't know how it happened, but it's all to do with this understanding. It just literally had dissolved. And, that's the kind of thing that I'm seeing more and more, that the things that I believed were part of me, I am someone that's scared of the dentist, it's just not there anymore. Like, where did that go?
So when you talk about the flow, you say that thoughts show up and then they flow away. Can you explain more what this flow is? Are we in the flow right now?
Yeah. So the way we're sat here talking and things are just coming up, as you said, we've not planned it. We haven't spoken since the last time we tried to do this. It's trusting that it will just happen. We're being lived. We're not in control of everything, and even down to our thoughts. They just pop into our heads. We don't plan them or make them. And when you're open to all this, like what you were saying just now, where when it kind of, where you're not quite so kind of in it and you're much more open, that's when things do kind of flow through easier, because everything's just more relaxed and it comes and goes. And that's the time that, I don't know, you drive in your car and all the lights are on green, you know, it's just things, beautiful things happen from that space. Or you find 20 pounds on the floor, or, you know, it's just there's just something, I don't want to say magical because that just but you know what I mean, Dave, you've been there.
It is magical.
Yeah, because we're not our thoughts, are we? Because if we were our thoughts, we wouldn't be able to be aware of them.
Say that again.
If we were our thoughts, we wouldn't be able to be aware of them. And the same with our body. And I guess that's what I see also in you know, with my eyes. I'm not my body, I'm more than that, you know. Because I'm aware of my hands, so I can't be my body. It just all gets a bit much. But just that kind of, you know, what happens to my body will happen to my body. It doesn't make, that's not me. So I'm not saying it doesn't matter, you know. When it happens, it's still going to be harder work, things are going to be slightly trickier, but I don't worry about the fact that I'm not going to be okay. I know I'm going to be okay no matter what. I
love the feeling, that feeling right there. And, you know, and that's interesting about this understanding. It said that you're going to be okay, but until you feel it, until you know this for yourself, and for everyone, again, watching or listening, this is so beautiful, this truth of that you are okay. And it's okay to experience anxiety. It's okay to experience depression. It's okay to experience frustration and anger. It's okay to experience that. You're okay through all that. The difference is knowing that our thoughts show up, that we have, I found a new number recently, septillion. We have septillion amounts of thoughts throughout our lives. And we don't know which ones are going to show up. We don't know which ones are going to show up.
Yeah, and that's why coaching is so wonderful, isn't it? Because as coaches, we can see it. But when you are struggling with something, you really, truly believe you're like it all the time. You know, from morning till you go to sleep. You know, It feels like it's all day. But you can guarantee that there will be tiny, even if it's the tiniest second, you know, where there is a tiny bit of peace. And it's kind of being able to point that person to the fact that that does happen. And as you said, if someone's laughing and joking when they come in, you know, it's available at any time until the thinking kicks in. You know, it's there all the time. And I don't think people realize that.
That's a beautiful point to bring up. That's so important. So important. That brings a tear to my eye because for the longest time in my depression, I had the same thing, the exact same thing, Claire. It was like, no, you don't understand. This is me 24 hours a day.
I think, you know, when you're in it, you're so like blinkered, aren't you, where you just can't see anything out of this little hole that you're sort of looking through. And that's what this understanding does, that once you understand how your mind truly works, you can see kind of why everything's going, you know, why you're feeling a certain way. And then because you don't take it so seriously, then you can kind of move on to the next thing. And I just remember sort of being so in it that I just couldn't see anything else, basically. And, you know, it would be like, oh, well, I'd like to do so-and-so, but I can't because I'm anxious. You know, all those kind of like, well, given that I'm an anxious person, I can't go there. Or, you know, you put all these kind of rules around life according to this thing that you've been told you've got, or that you believe that you've got. And once you realize that those are beliefs and that you don't need to take them seriously, you know, the whole world kind of opens up completely to you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, how did we not see it, for one? You know, because when you start realizing the truth of it, you do sort of think, well, how did I not realize that before? You know, because I must have noticed moments where I was happy, but I just didn't take any notice of them. I was too busy focusing on the bad bits that I didn't see the good bits. And then
brilliant.
Yeah. And it's just brilliant. It just kind of explains everything as well, doesn't it? And even down to kind of how you get on with other people. So if somebody's in a really foul mood, I mean, I used to take that so personally. I used to think that it was obviously because of me that they're in a mood, or I'd done something or said something. And once you realize that, okay, they're in a low state of mind right now, they're not seeing things clearly, it's nothing to do with me, I have no control over their mood, just as they have no control over my mood. And, you know, everything is just lighter.
That's another brilliant point. Can you talk more about that, about another person? Like, we don't experience that other person.
Yeah, that's a weird one, isn't it? Because that person is obviously a person, but they only exist to you in your mind when you think of them. But so you can only experience them through your own filters of how you're seeing them in that particular moment, depending on what kind of state of mind you're in. So if you're really down low, where you're not seeing things clearly, everything feels like a problem, you know, you look out to that person and actually what they're doing feels like a problem, or you take something personally, or you just experience them in not a particularly good way. And then if your mood heightens and you're feeling better or whatever, then you have this massive connection with them, and you can kind of love anybody. You know, it's that kind of connection you have with people depending on your state of mind.
The understanding is simple, and then it's not simple. but then again, it's so beautiful. I can see where it would have been challenging for me in the beginning. And I know it was in the beginning. I know I asked 1,000 questions, and I highly recommend, if you're watching, if you're curious, to ask 1,000 questions and contact Clare. I point that way. Contact Clare. I think it's really amazing. I mean, that is so intense to think that you can stand in front of someone that you know so well and then realize that the only way that you know them is from the experience that you're having of them. Mm-hmm. And wow, is that not a trip or what? It's such a difference, and it's probably hard to explain. And can you explain it any better than I can? Because I feel like I've messed it all up.
I think you explained it amazingly. I feel like it's a relief. Like, it's a relief to know that if it's not on you for how someone takes something. So, for example, let's say I was to send a text to someone, and then I read that text, I write the text in that moment. That comes from however I'm feeling in that moment. I look at my phone later and look at the same text and think, oh, maybe I shouldn't have sent that. I mean, same text, I'm just feeling totally different about it. But the nice thing is that whoever is receiving that text will only take it however they're feeling in that moment. So although I might think, oh, I'm not sure I've worded that properly, it doesn't really matter how I word it. They will take it however they take it. And I have no control over that whatsoever.
I think that's brilliant. For me, I will text longer text. I might write a poem, and I send that poem out. In my thoughts, I'm expecting a certain response. And when that response comes back and it's like one emoji, yeah. I laugh at myself, because I'm expecting, my thinking is expecting, oh, I'm going to get something really, really elegant and thought-provoking. And then I get ding, an emoji. Yeah. It's like, what? But that's me expecting something that I have no idea. I have no idea. That person could have just gotten in a car accident, a bumper to bumper, and they're mad as hell at this point. And they get that, they look at it and like, I don't got time for this. And we don't know what the other person is thinking. We never do. In fact, do we even know what we're going to think? And I think that's mind blowing too. Do we really know? We think we know ourselves so well. We think we've got this completely under control. I'm Dave Fry. This is my body. Dave Fry is. But does Dave Fry know what he's going to say next, right now?
And that is the beauty of it, isn't it? That you can turn up fresh to anything. Even if it's something that you've always felt uncomfortable with. For example, the dentist. You know that when you go to the dentist, you feel uncomfortable. But knowing this understanding, you really kind of start to get used to the fact that, okay, I can turn up today and feel totally differently. It doesn't matter. And different thoughts pop into your head at different times. No, you don't know what you're going to say or think or do. And when I look back to when I was really anxious, I would even say things to myself like, well, when that happens, I know I'm going to feel bad. How did I think I would know that? But that's the kind of thing that we're fighting against, and that's the thing that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis when we're struggling. Even thoughts like preempting your suffering. It's like you're pre-ordering suffering before the moment's even happened.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Wow. That's mind-blowing. And I think right now I'm feeling just immense gratitude for this conversation, immense gratitude. And that just showed up too, right? So that this feeling of compassion and gratitude that's always with us, and it just shows up out of the blue. But just having that awareness. And again, I'm not saying that a person has to go out and get awareness. You don't have to get anything. You already have everything you are looking for. So life is so random, and I don't even know. My mind shifted so quickly just a second ago. I was in compassion. I know that. I felt compassion, gratitude for what you were saying. And then I looked up, like right now, right past the edge of my computer is a turkey. Yeah, he's right out my window right there, and he's
is that the noise I can hear?
He's ginormous.
Of course, what else would happen? After you just saying, do we know what's going to happen and do we know what we're going to think? No, we don't.
No, we don't. And
I didn't know that you were going to say there was a turkey.
I think that's a beautiful example of how life works. And I lost everything. Like I had something I was going to say. And then right above the edge of my computer is this enormous turkey. I'm like,
oh, I love that.
They're so beautiful. There's so many beautiful colors on them. It's amazing.
Let's be grateful for the turkey.
Wow.
Oh, brilliant.
I have no idea where I was. I'm going to go back.
Yeah, I know. But something did come to mind when you were talking, though. So when, because I'm very grateful at the moment, a lot of the time, because I still have sight, So I wake up every morning. If I'm going to go into a bad mood, I think, well, I can see. So it's constant gratitude, whereas I concentrate so much on that rather than what it's going to be like when I can't see. So I think about how much sight I've got rather than how much I'm going to lose. It's always being kind of like, why would I want to be thinking about what it's going to be like without sight when I've got sight? And I think, again, that's important with the diagnosis, isn't it? Where if you've got something that's not necessarily happening right now, but it will happen at a later date, you could waste your time, your healthy eye time, or whatever it is that you're healthy with, like ruining your life with thinking about what's going to happen in the future. And I think, it makes you realize that this understanding makes me very confident in the fact that when it happens, I'll know exactly what to do then.
And I think you're a wonderful, beautiful example of this understanding, because you're absolutely right. And you had said earlier about a preemptive depression, right? So it's like, why would we do that? Now, it's not like, what I want to say is that I don't necessarily believe that I'm in control of what thoughts show up. A depressive thought may show up for me, and it has showed up for me. Absolutely, it has. You may have depressive thoughts about losing your sight. And I'm not speaking for you. I'm just speaking for myself from 34 years of depression, according to the system that I was in. According to the system I was in, I had depression until this understanding came along. And then everything exploded. But it doesn't mean that I don't have depressive thoughts anymore. I put so much belief into those thoughts. And what you're saying about your sight is so gorgeous. If we even take this conversation, the fact that we've had such a beautiful conversation, and in this entire time of you even speaking about this disease, this eye disease, you're just a glowing human being. And how beautiful is that?
So what happens with you now then if you get a depressing thought? Do you ever sort of think, oh, here we go again, or do you literally see it for what it is and say, off you go, I don't take any notice of you anymore?
That is an awesome question. I appreciate you asking me that. That is incredible. And I want to be as open and clear as possible on this. It varies. Sometimes I'll feel the realness of it, and yet I know this understanding is right there. It's almost like they're side by side. It's like somebody who's got your back. It's just an energy that just is always there, that just a quick reminder that, hey, you're caught up right now, and it's okay. It's okay to be caught up. It's okay to have this thought. There's nothing wrong with having this thought. We get thoughts, and we get the same thoughts over and over and over and over again sometimes. And then sometimes the thoughts that we used to have 10 years ago, well, they never show up again. But sometimes the thoughts we had 30 years ago show up again. And so it's just random. It's so incredibly random. Just like the 3 turkeys that are behind the computer right now. It's completely random. So I'm doing my best to focus right now.
I was just thinking, like, you're talking about repetitive thoughts. I can remember Amy saying once, funny, you just remember little like sentences, don't you? That wisdom is never repetitive. And I think that's really helpful to remember, isn't it? So any kind of thought that just keeps going over and over and over and over again, that's not kind of your inner wisdom speaking.
And how does inner wisdom show up for you?
That tends to be the kind of, I see it as common sense, I guess. That kind of way you just know something. You're not really sure how you know, it just kind of appears, but is very sensible with no thinking. Yeah, so I would call it common sense, I think. So, like when I'm really caught up in my head and I'm in a low mood and I feel like there's problems with my eyes, then I get all kind of like, future thinking, that kind of thing. When there's an actual issue that I need to get checked, I phone the opticians and get it checked. That's the difference, the kind of messy thinking when you're caught up, and then the inner wisdom that just gets you just do it, without any thinking. It's the sensible thing to do.
What does caught up mean? Because that's a language that you and I use, and we know what caught up means. But how would you explain being caught up?
I guess that's kind of describing the way we feel when we're, we're in a low state of mind. Our thoughts are revving around all over the place, therefore we're caught up in them. And lucky enough, we have this amazing inbuilt system, which we've again misunderstood this along the way. So this inbuilt system feels, it's like a tightness that we feel, that kind of overwhelm, the uncomfortable feeling that's actually telling us that we're caught up in our thinking and not to take it seriously. Whereas before, I'd always thought that tight, overwhelming, uncomfortable feeling was the fact that there was something wrong. And that's why I would always then try and get out of that feeling. And that's where the problem started, I guess, because the more you try and get out, the worse it feels. But I think, because people don't know we have this inbuilt system, we can kind of use it to our advantage to just, that's telling us that, okay, don't listen to your thinking right now. It's not making sense. You're caught up in your thinking. It's all revved up. So just don't take it too seriously.
Love that.
I'm not sure if I explained that.
Oh, you did.
Properly, but
you did absolutely.
Okay, but it's just it's how clever. And again, a relief. It's a relief to know that feeling is not an indicator of anything being wrong. It's actually being put in there to help us and to guide us in and out of kind of the moods and states of mind. And if you know that you're caught up in your thinking because your feelings are telling you so, then you don't have to react from that place. You don't have to go sending people angry emails or, I don't know, changing your job. You can let it settle down. When that feeling goes and wisdom kind of is allowed to come through, you'll know what to do then.
Oh, I know. I mean, I think about all the times that I've been caught up. And then what showed up for me recently was like, if we could zoom into the brain on a quantum level and we could see the energy that's actually firing in our synapses, and you sped that up in a real time caught up. Well, if electricity is firing through our synapses and it speeds up, that would be friction. There would be friction. There would be a physical feeling in your brain if the thoughts were speeding up versus being just calm. Calm is calm, but we say caught up because those thoughts are coming in so fast. Wouldn't that have an actual real quantum physical sensation in our brains that something's, not only is that firing it too fast, but then it's sending signals out to the body. And then that's where you feel all this vibration and you feel this intensity and the feeling of whatever. And I thought to my thought,
yeah.
I thought, you know what? That's really clever. You came up with that yourself. I'm glad you're my head. You come up with some really brilliant stuff.
Yeah. I know, and isn't it funny how we, when you talk about that kind of thing, we're made so amazingly that, obviously our bodies have got this and everything's got this, but we don't trust our minds with the same. Our bodies will just do their thing without us getting involved at all. But when it comes to our mind, if it's a bit off, we feel the need to get in there and kind of try and sort it out, which obviously we're not very good at.
Like you said, to be lighthearted about it, to see these thoughts that show up as not really what they used to be. They used to be so heavy and so concrete and so and it's like, what if that's not true? What if that's not true at all?
Yeah, and even noticing that all our thoughts are I, me, my, they're just very kind of with the star of our own show at all times, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Bobby Heron, she goes, we were doing our podcast and she goes, did you feel it? And I'm like, You mean that calmness, that space where we weren't talking? And she goes, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I felt it too when I was listening to it.
So what do you think about that? What is that?
It's like when everybody's thinking settles at the same time and you just get this, I don't know, just quiet. Everybody's minds being quiet at the same time. Is that what you would say? Or yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the fact that it happens naturally. And that's something that I think is extremely important to share with everyone, no matter what the age is, all the way down to a little kid, all the way up to 91-year-old mothers. Our minds settle down, and we don't necessarily recognize that. You know, the people that get on the group calls and the people that are clients, they come in and they are wound up to tell us everything that's happened or happening. And even through that, there's moments where things, they settle on their own. I don't have to do anything, and that person doesn't have to do anything. And I love the fact that you had said that when we do get caught up, when we used to get caught up, because of the experience of the thoughts that were showing up, we would do whatever it takes to get out of that experience. We'd want to get out of it. And here it's this beautiful example of we don't have to get out of it. It settles on its own. It always does. And if you could just bear with yourself at times and know that that space is coming, it always shows up. So let me ask you this. We know, what do we know? We know that a problem arises within people. And maybe, like you had said earlier, that we get caught up and there's a sense of urgency to get out of that. You get caught up, your mind's busy, the old paradigm and our cultural profession or therapy says that you have a disorder. So that's unfortunate. I would love for that to stop. I would love the fact that professionals are telling people that because you had a bad day or a bad week that there's a problem. That would be great if you guys could just stop that right now. That'd be fantastic. Thank you. We get caught up. We experience a week of anxiety, frustration, anger, whatever. There's a sense of, I got to get out of this. I got to get back to my peacefulness, my calmness, or wherever. And it's a struggle. The struggling is the feeling that you're stuck there, that this is who you are now. An hour ago or a week ago or a month ago, you were Dave Fry, this person that you identified with. Now all of a sudden, because of these new thoughts and feelings that showed up that don't seem to go away, now all of a sudden the identity comes in and says, well, now I'm this person. I'm this anxious person that can't go to the dentist. And that's who I am. And I'm going to be that way forever because I now identify with that feeling that just showed up. The 100 people that show up at the school, they all show up because there's something that they're struggling with. They think it's a problem. But is it a problem, Claire?
It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because when you're completely caught up in it, you can't see it any other way. But as you learn to zoom out more and know that every single human being is the same, they just have different flavored problems, then it's not a problem. And I guess that's what this understanding does, isn't it? It kind of shines the light on it in a way that when you know that we're all just being human beings, and we do get caught up from time to time, just kind of takes the pressure off it, where you don't get so worried if you do get caught up in your thinking, and then you trust that it's going to move through. So it's not a problem at all because people are being human. But as I said, when you're in it, it feels like a problem. It feels very real.
And it's not real because we know that our thinking is flowing through us. And what we started with on this podcast was completely random. And everything that we went through this podcast and where we are right now has been this natural flow. There was no order to it. There was no control. There was no knowing what the next thing was. And if you watch and listen to these podcasts, you'll hear us say, what's showing up for me right now, or when you said this, what showed up for me. That is so beautiful to witness, isn't it? Just amazing that we can sit back, listen to another person, and we wait. What are we waiting for? If they only had an emoji that was like this, what are we waiting for? I don't know. We're waiting for whatever shows up. Every time we speak, it's what shows up for us. And I find that to be really, really awesome.
Yeah, amazing.
So tell us about how people can contact you.
I have a website. It's called Blindsided by Thought, and anyone can connect with me through there. There's like a contact page on there. I have a Facebook group, again, Blindsided by Thought. Even that, the name literally popped out of the blue. It's just like, I know, so where did that come from?
That's magic back there, people. This is a magic blue, because things pop out of the blue.
It's true, and you have to trust it, I think, isn't it? Yeah, but that's the way to contact me if anyone would like to learn more. So we feel so passionately about this understanding that we feel like we want to share it with the whole world. So Dave's a coach and I'm a coach, and if you want to work with us, we are here.
And if you feel yourself struggling, if you feel yourself stuck, that is just a wonderful communication. It's a communication to yourself that just says, I'm really caught up in my mind right now. And if you get to a point where you can't figure out, or there's no relief for you, that would be a great time to connect with us, because we know that you're okay, completely okay. And what we do is we point you into a different direction. And that different direction is not really to the left or the right or the up and the down. It's back into yourself. And that's something that's been extremely helpful for me.
Yeah, so I think the reason why coaches are so helpful is because they can see clearly what you're not seeing. So basically, whatever you're struggling with, we can sort of start to try and unravel it and see and help you to see that you're just not seeing it as thought in the moment, and that we can keep guiding you back to that direction. And it doesn't make sense at the moment, but when you're in the session, it all sort of becomes clear and you can start to kind of see things for what they are, really.
It's funny because I had a problem with the word coaching, because I always noticed that when I'm having a conversation with another human being, I get to learn so much too. And it's like, wait a minute, who's coaching who? So instead of coaching, really, it's connecting. It's connecting. It's reconnecting to ourselves over and over and over again. And that's why coaches have coaches, because this is really, it's important to just stay in this conversation and don't give up on yourself, whatever you do. That is not necessary. What's necessary is to know how brilliant you are and how amazing you are. What's going to show up for you is truly fascinating and amazing. And you are an incredibly amazing human being, I promise you. It's just getting out of your way sometimes. And that's what Claire and I do, is we reconnect you to yourself. It's not that we do it, but we offer ways to show you where you are in your thinking.
I had a bit of coaching, didn't I, Dave, a couple of weeks ago on public speaking. And Dave was one of the coaches. And honestly, the shift that I had just from that, like half an hour, 45 minutes, just because I wasn't seeing that my fear of speaking in front of people was thought. I saw it as real. It was very kind of solid to me, and the coaches just kind of poked a few holes in that, and then it's opened a whole new world for me, really. Now there's no stopping me. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you so much, and I love the fact that you can see past your thinking and you're doing things that are just amazing and impressive, and you inspire me. Claire, thank you so much for being here. This has been absolutely amazing. I can't tell you how much I appreciate this, and I think your wisdom and clarity, I think your wisdom and clarity are profound and amazing. And I think the fact that you have this unknown factor and how you continue to want to serve others, it truly deserves the Medal of Honor. I am just so grateful for you, and I think you're an incredible human being, and I can't thank you enough.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed it, and thank you for doing these podcasts. They're amazing. Teaching people a lot. Thank you, Dave.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.